Hello and welcome to Mental Health Monday. We're so happy to have all of you here with us. Good to see you, Dr. White. It's been
Good to
two
see you as
weeks.
well, Sister Atonte.
Yes, good to have you here. And everyone else who is on, please let us know where you are watching from. We want to say welcome to you and just see where our viewing audience is coming. But as you know, we are talking about depression. This is our episode 2 on depression. So we just want to take that deep dive and just see what we can all learn about depression, because we know that this is something that impacts everyone. If you haven't experienced depression, someone in your life, a loved one, a friend has. And so we just want to talk about that this evening. And you are a part of the program. So please put in your questions, your comments. You make this 1 hour together work. So we enjoy your comments and your questions. So please add them to the chat. Of course, we want to say hi and welcome to Clint. Clint made sure that he was the first one on. So always good to see you, Clint, and welcome from Longview, Texas.
What's up, Clint? Good to see you, brother.
Always good to see you here. Veronica is here. Good to see you, Veronica. Oh,
Yeah,
hey,
Veronica.
Jesus. Okay, it's a different hey. Okay, Jesus is my savior. Okay, we have a friend, Jesus from California. I thought that was him, but Jesus is my savior. Good evening. From Florida. Was just in Florida this weekend. Good to
From
see you
Wildwood, Florida.
here. Yeah, Wildwood, Florida. Rob Green from Santa Cruz, California. Beautiful part of California. We used to live near there. Good to see you here.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
see Sierra Vista, Arizona. Dawn Cody.
All right.
Great to see you.
Welcome. And we have the Actors Box. Says the
Oh.
first time. This is your first time here. Welcome to Mental Health Monday. We're so happy that you're here. Where are you viewing from? Actors Box, the Actors Box. Where are you viewing from? Let us know. Did you say hi to Jody from Alberta, Canada?
I did not. I
Did
did
that come up?
not. Hello, Jody.
You did not. Okay. Good to see you here.
You might be our first
Good to
international
see
person, I
you
guess.
for this evening. Yeah, looks like it is. It's good to see all of you here. And again, welcome to all of you. And we're talking about depression. Please put your questions and your comments in the chat. Um, and we want you to be a part of this program. All right. Okay. In Pennsylvania. Good to see you. Good
Nice.
to see
Nice.
you. All right. So, how has your 2 weeks been, Dr. White?
You know, is time flying or what?
Time is flying because we're in November. It's the end of the year. We're
I feel
basically
like I
yeah,
feel like it was yesterday that I said Happy New Year, and I was
right?
excited about 2024. I mean, it's just going so fast.
It's all about
Um,
2025 now. It's coming. It's coming
but no,
fast.
it's
And
a
2020. Go ahead. I
what's
was
that?
just going to say, and 2025, we are actually going to have our first convocation as a Living Manna Church in person. So that's going to
I'm
be in
so excited about
Orlando,
that.
May 1st through the 4th. You get to meet Dr. White. And I believe we've discussed this. I hope I actually discussed it with you, or if it was all in my head, but I think we discussed it. Dr. White is going to be presenting some mental health. Like, okay, he's going to be doing a mental health workshop at least on Friday. I'm sure that's going to happen then, maybe in Saturday afternoon too. We haven't quite put the program together, but that is on the list of things that will be happening. And he'll do that, and I'll probably do marriage and talk about relationships. So we'll be talking about two different things, but Mental Health Monday will be there representing. So if you want to meet Dr. White and me, please come to the convocation and you'll get more information about that soon. All right. So
Absolutely.
with that said, let's jump into our topic for this evening.
Yeah, depression is such of an important topic to discuss because it's the leading psychiatric diagnosis associated with suicide.
Yes.
And if you want some of the statistics on suicide, we know that according to the CDC, roughly about 48,000 people suicide annually in the United States. Uh,
Hmm.
but 1.2 million people actually attempt suicide
Yes.
annually in the US. So that is just, staggering. 3.2 million plan
Hmm.
suicide, and then 12.2 million people have serious thoughts about suicide.
Hmm.
And now 54% of those people who suicide are not known to have a psychiatric diagnosis, but
Right.
of the psychiatric diagnosis, depression is the one that's most associated with suicide. So it is nothing to ignore. And Veronica, thank you for our first question. We'll go to it right after Sister Tante says what she was about to say. Go for it, sis.
I was just gonna say because you are oh, and there's an echo. Am I echoing, guys? I heard an echo. Okay, maybe that was just a one-off. So I hope that's the case. But so yeah, I was just going to say that it's the number two killer of young people between the ages of like 12 and 18. Maybe that's 13 and 18, but it's the number two killer, highest killer of young adults or young people between those ages.
And,
So
and we give you those numbers just so you can understand how important this issue is. Also, depression, when it's comorbid
yeah.
with chronic illnesses like diabetes, high blood pressure, uh, the mortality for those conditions actually goes up significantly. So,
Hmm.
this is something that we absolutely want to be aware of. Now, listen to this. Veronica asks, is depression curable or just treatable? And I think the word she's reaching for is, can you just manage it? Is it one of those chronic things that you can only manage? So, one of the things I learned from Dr. Neil Nedley
Hmm.
is when you can correctly identify the cause of the depression, now
Right.
you increase significantly the likelihood that you might be able to treat it
Right.
effectively, and sometimes a cure is relevant. So, for example, imagine if there is a vitamin deficiency that's at the root cause of the depression. If you supplement the vitamin, then you can cure depression. Another powerful issue is what you focus on. Imagine just focusing on depressive themes and then succumbing to depression. So yet again, and this is why CBT can be so cognitive behavioral therapy can be so powerful,
Right.
because as you learn how to control your focus, then you actually control your mood in a better way. You can, and
Right.
so it can actually address the depression in an effective manner. Were you going to say
Right.
something?
Well, I was just going to say, yes, when you're cognitive behavioral therapy is, like you said, so effective because you are controlling your thoughts, which helps to control your um,
Your
feelings
mood.
or emotions, your behavior. So it's like yeah, controlling those thoughts are going to be your very first step. And when you're able to do that, it can become very effective and helping with your depression because you're not having those
So
negative
you can
thoughts anymore, or you're having them, but you're able to control them or
interrogate them.
interrogate them. Yes, I tell my clients it's like you're rewiring your brain. You're, you know,
You're
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 building new pathways
rewiring.
of positivity.
You're treating your brain. You're treating your thought process like a hostile witness.
Yeah,
The way that attorneys, they treat it like a hostile judge. May I treat the witness like a hostile witness, so you can
right.
interrogate those thoughts. Are
Mm,
they based in fact,
yes.
or are they colored by the darkness of depression? So imagine
Mhm.
succumbing to a flawed thought process. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine succumbing to a flawed thought process? So you're depressed because you have embraced a false ideology
Mhm.
that
A lie.
when you interrogate it, a lie, so that when
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
interrogate it, now your depression could
Mhm.
lift. And sometimes you
Mhm.
can't do it by yourself. And that's sometimes the role of a therapist. They can actually sit alongside you and effectively interrogate that thought process so that you can embrace thoughts and ideals that are actually based in
Mhm.
reality.
Right.
Because the whole point of this is you want to control what you actually can control and not drive yourself crazy trying to control things you actually can't control.
Mhm. No, and I've said this on here before, maybe in season 1, I think. I know it's been several couple years ago. Can't believe we've been on here almost 3 years now, but is like I like to introduce to my clients on how to externalize these negative thoughts, meaning not feeling like it's them, but actually externalizing them and actually give them a name. So I have them something that they hate. Right. I've given this example before. I have clients that they hate the vegetable kale. So they call their negative thoughts kale. Okay. I love kale, but they say kale. Okay. Well, that's something that you hate. And I want it something that they hate because negative thoughts are not your friend. So I don't want you to cozy up with them. You know what I mean? And act like
Uh,
this is just a part of me. And that's how people feel when they're depressed, like almost like sometimes it's like it's so much a part of them, and to try to take that away, they almost think it's a part of them that's being taken away, even though it's a depressing thought or a negative thought. But I tell them uh to give the negative thought a name that you hate, because now you're going to have a conversation, basically putting this thought on trial, and to have a conversation with this negative thought and just prove that it is wrong, or just destroy that thought. However they want to destroy that thought in their imagination, they can do that by having a conversation every time they have the thought. So they get in a habit of not just letting the thought sit and taking root and becoming a part of them. So that's why it's important to externalize them and not just let it
no,
sit inside of you.
100%. And one of the processes for externalizing it is talking about it. You might actually process it with a therapist. Sometimes you can process it with a friend. Another
Right, right,
process is actually writing. You
right.
can write that thought. So
Mhm,
that can be a powerful tool as well. Clint,
mhm.
I got to tell you, I love this question, man. This is an awesome question. Is overcoming depression just learning how to live with those things that afflict you? Okay, so this is a fantastic question. And this is why we're doing this series. Because one of the
Mhm.
things that people can often forget is that psychiatric diagnoses occur on a continuum. And a lot of times you'll see the word disorder, which hints to the reality that what a psychiatric diagnosis will often do is it will disrupt your ability to function so that the
Mm,
severity of it will be in direct proportion to the level of the disruption in your life.
mhm.
Sometimes the disruption might be light. Well, in that case, it's just mild. It's just a mild case of it. Other times it is severe. I mentioned before the suicidal, statistics. So we're talking about a level of severity where a person has concluded that they need to end their life. Okay. So that's pretty severe.
Mhm.
So as you now think about addressing depression, one of the first things you would need to understand is, well, how severe is it? Because depending on the
Mm,
severity, it'll speak to how aggressively you have to deal with it. And what we wanted to champion and help you understand is if you're going to tackle depression, Clint, um, first and foremost, the first step is a medical workup to rule out the medical causes of depression, whether
okay.
it's thyroid illness. So, hypothyroidism can seem like depression, anemia, or reduced energy for one reason or another, um, a tumor, a brain tumor. Like, so you've got to rule out medical causes of depression. Once
Right.
that's done, then yet again, one of the things that we're highlighting is we're showing you there are many things that can contribute to depression. It could be the season that you're in. So we're heading into that
Mhm.
season where a lot of times people are getting less light. And so there's seasonal affect disorder. Other times it could be dietary, so you're not getting the vitamins that you need. Other times it could be the experience of trauma. So sometimes people experience trauma, and that can put them, at risk of
Mhm.
depression. And I could go down the list. And so we're
Right.
going to systematically kind of go down the list and talk about the various causes of depression. But the idea is, Clint, you can see really easily that as you understand the cause of depression, it's going to call upon a different set of strategies to eradicate that depression. And that's
Mhm.
why it's so important to understand what exactly is going on so that you can implement something that's effective.
Mhm. There's so many
All right.
variables.
The
You're
actors.
right. Not getting enough not getting enough
Yeah.
rest. I don't know about you, but when they turn I mean,
Oh my
not
goodness.
getting enough rest is huge. And just like by setting these clocks back and people are getting an extra hour of sleep, I don't know about you, but my Monday was amazing. I had so much energy today. I mean, I was just like, just because got more sleep, got more rest. And we need to get
So
more
check.
rest, proper rest when, on a regular basis. That will help with fighting off depression. Go ahead.
So we got this really cool television in my living room. I think when you visited, we had that television up, right?
Yeah.
Sony, just super, super cool television.
Okay.
Anyway, it broke, right? And
Oh
it's like, it's really
no.
frustrating because and we just can't turn it on, right?
Oh wow.
Whatever the case, because the television doesn't work, now we're going to bed earlier, you know?
So it's a good thing.
Oh my goodness. Like
Mhm.
the sleep is so good. It's like you feel so vibrant and awake. It's amazing. So
I
when you
woke up
talk
okay,
about
I know this is
rest,
not about us, but I woke up at 12. I remember I looked at the clock. I woke up at 12:45 and felt, like, completely rested this morning because
oh
I
my
had went to
goodness.
bed
Oh my god.
probably almost around 9 o'clock. It was just amazing, but go ahead.
No, so the idea just being that when you rest and you rejuvenate,
Yeah,
like it can be amazing. Now you highlighted the energy contribution, but
yeah,
one of the other things that happens when you're sleeping is your brain is consolidating your problems.
right,
Um, like it's as if when you're sleeping, you are allowing the subconscious brain to now start attacking those problems and working on those problems. So that now when you're conscious, those problems get handed now back to the conscious brain
right.
having been worked on and analyzed and reformulated. And now you wake up with these eureka moments. Like you ever like after a good night's
That's
sleep, isn't
powerful.
there just a different perspective with the same problem? Because you've
Mhm.
now allowed the subconscious brain to actually attack it. I mean, it's just so absolutely amazing. So the idea just being that rest is a powerful contributor. All right, the actors box said, I presume it's R. Are suicidal thoughts an indication that you are depressed? So there is a criteria for depression. There's like, I don't know, about like 9 things. So one of the criteria talks about an increased frequency of thoughts about death and dying. So suicidal thoughts can be associated with depression, but what I want to highlight is there is a clinical criteria for diagnosing a person with clinical depression, and so
Right.
that's just one thing. So it's not like you're having suicidal thoughts and you're depressed. As I mentioned before, 54% of those who suicided were not known to have a psychiatric diagnosis, which would include depression. So there's this myth that you have to have a psychiatric diagnosis to suicide. Two things. There are two things.
And I just wanna throw this out here, just for not devil's advocate, but just throw this out here because with that, I know that's scientifically true. No, you're right. But I'm wondering if the numbers are a little off in the sense that people may have the criteria to be diagnosed with depression, but they don't go get help for it. So they're never officially diagnosed.
That's a
And
factor. That's a
right.
factor. That's a factor. So
Mhm.
sometimes people couldn't get to psychiatric care, and I'm sure there's a percentage of that
Right.
54% for whom that's true. but there's definitely a percentage
Right.
that don't have a psychiatric diagnosis, because
Right.
those two things that you need to be acutely suicidal, number one is desperation. Like,
Right.
you get into a situation where you just feel absolutely desperate. And the second is hopelessness.
Mhm.
Hopelessness. Now, I'm a Christian psychiatrist. And part of what I value about being a Christian psychiatrist is hopelessness and desperation are both deceptions. They're both deceptions.
Mhm.
Um, like, there's always hope, thanks to the fact that we have a God that died for us. Um, and with regard to desperation, God is always in the situation, with you. And we talked about having cognitive beliefs that can impact your mood. How powerful is that? The understanding that I've got somebody who's always got my back, who's always
Yeah.
working things in my favor.
Mhm.
That's real. So yeah. So
Okay.
just to answer that question about suicide. So thank you for that actor's box. So how can you treat
Yeah, that was
depression
great.
in an oppressive and racist society? My goodness, look at the actor's box bringing the heat. Listen to her.
Yeah,
How
bringing
can
the
you
heat.
treat depression in an oppressive and racist society?
Okay.
Actor's box, the way I would address that is, this is like a perfect example of how you can utilize your thinking to help you conquer, let's say, depression, for example.
Mhm.
However much you might be being victimized by microaggressions and sometimes even macroaggressions today, one perspective one could embrace is, but it's not like how it was yesterday. It is not the same. Um, I don't
No, it's
think it's at all controversial. I don't think it's a controversial point to say we have had a measure of progress. We
no, for sure.
personally, we are nowhere near where we need to be. Okay,
Right.
nowhere near, but there's been some progress. And remembering that, for example, is one of the things that can help you say, I can take another step, and I
Mhm.
can take another step.
Mhm.
Um, and let me just say this, actors box, because this is these are some of the things that are really important to me. I think sometimes there can be a mistake of allowing a very vocal negative minority eclipse the positive majority. And what I notice with people who've been able to change society, one of the things they've been able to do is look past that vocal negative minority and understand that on a whole, people actually want to be good. People actually want to do the right thing.
Mhm.
And they look past that vitriol, and they appeal to people who actually aspire to higher our ideals. And that makes a difference. So it's there, and I'm not one of these people who says ignore it, because I don't think that makes sense either. I don't think you can change things without having a measure of, realistic frustration. Realistic frustration drives you to say, we need to change that. Um, but
Right.
by the same token, we don't want to be so immersed in the vitriol that we don't recognize there are opportunities to make things better.
Right. I wanted to take a stab at Veronica had put up a question, I think, back when we were talking about sleep or rest. Um, okay, it just went away. But
Help us
okay,
out, Amra.
okay, okay. So if you suffer from insomnia, are you more likely to be depressed? Veronica is asking, and I would say that if you are suffering from insomnia and you're obviously not getting the rest that you should be getting, it will definitely become more challenging. I mean, because the brain just doesn't have that time to reset, rebuild, do what it has to do when you're getting sleep. So, um, it definitely will make it, it'll make it more challenging to fight off the negative thoughts, being overwhelmed, being stressed, just not being able to be in that homeostasis where you're just, you're having peace. But because when you don't get enough sleep, you're definitely not, you're impacted by all the different things that are going on a daily basis, and you're becoming overwhelmed and sad. And so, yeah, it would be harder to not fully be depressed. I'm not going to say it's a complete impossibility, but it will be definitely more challenging.
Well, have you and I are both parents,
Yes.
or and have been parents of young children, and
Yes.
we both know it's one thing interacting with them with no sleep, and it's another thing interacting them with a full night's sleep.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And that's the same way to think of what we're talking about in terms of battling depression mentally. It takes energy.
Mhm.
It takes energy. You get that energy in some ways from a good night's sleep. You get that energy from good nutrition, good so on and so forth, nice, refreshing walk in sunlight and fresh air and all that kind of good stuff. True. But it is a battle to battle depression, and that energy doesn't just come out of nowhere. You have to source it. So one of the ways you source it is a good night's sleep. And Veronica, yeah, it's true that a lot of times one of the things that people are experiencing when they're struggling with depression is insomnia, problems with sleep.
Mm-hmm. I just want to share one thing, and I've shared it before, but so my husband doesn't care if I share it. But probably we've been married 26 years, probably midway, maybe 10 years in, maybe 12, 13, 14 years in, because we were always catching flights, early morning flights, and we had to drive to the airport, and sometimes a couple of hours away, depending on which airport we were flying out of. And we learned early on, because I have the sweetest husband in the world, even though I'm sure your wife would say you're the sweetest husband in the world, and that's good. But I have the sweetest, like, well, just even mannered husband, but he doesn't like to wake up early or be woken up early. So when we're preparing for a flight that's like a 6 a.m. flight and we'd be driving to the airport, we would used to get in arguments. And we learned after several years of that, when we have to get up early and we didn't get a full night's rest, we just don't talk on the way to the airport. Because I'm using this as an example, because my husband's never moody or grumpy or anything like that. But
Right.
when he doesn't get proper rest, he is moody.
That's
So,
funny. That's really funny.
and so, anyways, I'm just going off of that proper rest is very important for mood stability and even for depression. So, anyways, we're quiet
Well,
in the on the. Go ahead.
I was laughing because it's like it's so funny when you can actually schedule the flight for later. You almost feel like you're doing something wrong. It's like,
Well,
really? I could wake up late? Oh my goodness.
I
It
know.
feels so surreal. It
Well,
feels
this is
so
back in the day where we had 4
right.
kids, and, like, we'd be doing we're going to ministry stuff, right? But they would bring our
Right.
family, so we were like, "Oh, okay, we don't want them to spend the top dollar on a ticket. Let's get the cheapest tickets," and the cheapest tickets are gonna be early in the morning. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Anyways, let's
Yeah.
take Deborah's next
All
question.
right. What if depression is cyclic, but not related to cluster
A.
cluster A? All right. Cluster A, she is alluding to back in the day, DSM would talk about, the three clusters, cluster A, cluster B, cluster C. What if depression is cyclical? Um, so the depression that where we mentioned, for example, seasonal affect disorder, you could see how that's going to be cyclical. So every year, during that time period, people will tend to have depression during those periods of the year where they're experiencing different levels of sun. Another cyclical issue is at times people in their menstrual cycle, there'll be a period where they have a greater mood disruption and even comorbid depression. So those are two
Mhm.
examples that immediately come to mind in terms of a mood disorder having a cyclical component. Um, but so it can be cyclical. Deborah, maybe you can make your next point and even highlight what you mean by related to the clusters. All right. Jesus, my savior, said, what about severe persecution from the lifestyle that she used to live prior to changing your life around? What about severe persecution? You know, Jesus, I like that question because one of the things that can affect depression is guilt
Mhm.
and allowing the mind to be victimized by an overriding sense of guilt.
Right.
And guilt from what you said? Guilt from reviewing past mistakes and just feeling like those past mistakes now are your identity rather than not realizing God saves to the uttermost. God saves to the uttermost. God is God is not willing that any should perish. Like so these are things that really help you just abandon guilt. Like guilt is a waste. It's a waste. It's cool to have a measure of remorse. It's cool to repent, but then it's time to move forward. Rather than wallowing in that guilt. So sometimes we persecute ourselves by allowing ourselves to be victimized by our thinking. So you guys are probably aware of my company, the Mastermind Institute, and our logo really and truly encapsulates the ship's wheel. And the reason I love the ship's wheel so much is because it's this constant reminder to not let your thinking be passive. There are too
Mhm.
many people who it's like their ships are sailing and there's no one at the wheel. There's no one at the wheel.
Mhm.
In like manner, there are people who are having thought processes and there's nobody guiding the thoughts. You are the master of your thoughts.
Right.
You are the one that's supposed to
That's right.
interrogate that thinking. Am I supposed to be guilty? Do I
Mhm.
believe that Jesus is my savior, as the name says?
Mhm.
Do I remember that? If Jesus is my savior, why am I guilty? You know? Why am
Mhm.
I guilty? So again, you can see the power of interrogating your thinking and thereby not being victimized by your thoughts and taking the agency to take control of your thought process and
Mhm.
making sure that it is helping you and not hindering you.
That's right. The actress has another question that's been put up here. And Tennessee, we want to get to your question too next. And she's saying, can you live and work in a depressing situation and not be depressed? And I think that kind of goes with what you were just sharing. I like to share with clients that, you cannot control your environment outside your environment, meaning like you can't control what other people do. So if you work in a depressive environment, or for whatever reason you feel like it's depressing, like you can't control other people, but you can control, kind of similar to what Dr. White was saying, your thoughts. So you can be at the wheel of your thoughts, even in a depressing work situation, and not allow it to impact you the way that a depressive work situation would normally impact you. You have control over your thoughts. And so if you're going to have a control over your response, your emotion, and your behavior in that negative situation. Now, if this is a really bad situation, you need to pray and see if God can remove you from that. You have the power to do that as well. And God can give you that, can get you out of that situation. But until something like that happens, is you are still in control of what is going on in your head, but you can't control other people. It's like imagine yourself in a glass bubble that you can see outside of it. You see what other people are doing. You can see maybe their bad behavior and things that they should not be doing. But you're in this bubble and they cannot touch you unless you allow your behavior to connect with theirs. And that would be through your negative thoughts or the way you're responding to something. So you're in control of that. You have the will, or you're guiding the ship, if I want to go with Dr. Whyte. And so that's my response to your
No,
question. Hope that helps.
well said. Well said, 100%. Um, and I mean, the only thing I would add to that is, I think I'm sure, sis, you're familiar with the book Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. And
Mhm.
I think anyone would agree that a concentration camp is a pretty depressive setting.
Right.
That said, when you're clear about your purpose, though, and his purpose, this was Viktor Frankl, a Jewish psychiatrist that survived the World War II prisoner of war camps. Um, he was locked in on a purpose. He wanted to see his wife again. And so, what I would offer to you, actor, is when you get, I remember hating, a lot of the experiences in med school, hating it, but I was so clear on what the purpose was that, in a sense, I still
Mm,
derived a great amount of meaning and I knew what it would be connected to. So just because an experience is awful, it doesn't mean I have to get depressed necessarily if I'm clear
right.
on purpose. And it's to underscore the power of purpose, one of the 7 vitals that I talk about.
Right.
But purpose being just so powerful. And Nietzsche said, a man who has a why can get through any how. And of course, I'm paraphrasing
Mhm.
that. But yeah,
Mhm.
purpose is a big deal. So, but I want to echo your sentiments that, yeah, you don't have to, if you can change it, the situation, obviously you change it, but it's not
Mhm.
always, necessarily possible. Super chat. All right,
Brother,
Brother
yeah,
Tennessee.
yeah, Brother Tennessee.
How do I deal with the emotions that come from depression? It isn't what was done to me that bothers me. I hate the feelings that it brings. Okay, so
Like
how do I deal with,
like
okay,
rage
like
and
rage, like sadness, like anger? Brother Tennessee, we're gonna free you today. We are gonna free you today. Um, I want to remind you, my brother, that anger, rage, fury, all of those things are energy. They're all
Mhm.
energy. Okay. Anger, rage, fury, disappointment, it's energy. And what that situation is asking you is, what will you do with that energy? Will you sit with it and let it destroy you? Will you sit with it and maybe let it lead you to do something harmful? Or will you funnel that energy into
Mhm.
building something beautiful?
Right.
It's energy, and it's up to you how you're going to choose to use it. So, the idea being, by no means should you just sit with that emotion. That emotion is energy and powerful energy that can be harnessed. Some of the most beautiful pieces of music have come from artists effectively funneling that energy into their musical art. Some of the most powerful
Mhm.
paintings, some of the most, some of pieces that have been written, movements that have been led. um
Mhm.
so I don't know if, I came across this YouTube video where this person is being described, this Haitian, he's described as, one of the most dangerous gang leaders in all of, the world or whatever. And you watch the YouTube video, and he's a policeman who saw the corruption and decided that he wanted to do something about it. And he literally got the gangs to stop fighting. And yet he's being painted as some kind of, awful
Mm.
person. My point being, he's doing something. Okay. And I don't know all the details, so I can't really speak on that effectively. But what I'm getting at is people that have taken their pain and built it into movements. Mothers Against Drunk Driving, for example, taking the pain of
Mhm.
losing, this woman taking the pain of losing her son and building a movement. So, my brother, The challenge is when you're asked by life what to do with that pain, whether it's hate or anger or fury, funnel that energy into doing something beautiful.
Mhm. Mhm. I almost want to say amen, but amen. That was beautiful. On the flip side, sleeping from yeah, on the flip side, is sleeping too much a form of depression as a young person? So, sleeping too much can be a sign of depression, but when we were talking about getting proper rest, typically young people are sleeping at the wrong time. So they're staying up till maybe 3, 4 a.m., missing all that good quality sleep, and they're sleeping until 12, 1, 2 in the afternoon, just wasting the day away. That's really the wrong cycle of sleeping. That is actually, it's not healthy. The body repairs itself in those earlier hours of sleep. So yeah, to answer,
Well
that's a
said.
long
No, no, well
question.
said.
Not
Well said. Again, and there's no one single criteria that automatically leads to depression. Remember that it's a bunch of things taken together. But yeah, too much
right,
sleep can be a hint. But I love what you're saying that sometimes people's sleep cycle is off. I can't tell you how many times, I'm rounding on a patient and they're like, "Yeah, doc, I had a horrible time sleeping," and I'm interviewing them while they're in bed, and you're like, "Have you stayed this way the whole day?" Yeah. Well, you're gonna have trouble sleeping tonight. So you're gonna want to get up, walk around the
right.
unit, get some exercise in because you're throwing off your sleep cycle.
Mhm.
So that can be one
We're
factor.
glad you're here, Brother Tennessee. Brother Tennessee said, "I'm glad I'm here." We're glad you're here too.
Absolutely, absolutely,
We're glad all of you are here.
indeed. I hope Brother Tennessee got freed though.
I think he did. I think he did.
I hope he got freed.
You weren't no today you weren't Dr. White, you were Preacher White.
Let's see. The actor said, "Can you give examples of not having?" Oh dear, mercy. Of not having passive thinking and what the opposite looks like? Thank you for that question. What an awesome and thoughtful question. Can you give an example of not having passive thinking and what the opposite looks like? Okay, so got into I just broke up with the girlfriend, right? Broke up with the girlfriend, guys. I'm married, so this is a hypothetical. But I work with patients who encounter this kind of stuff all the time, so it is what it is. Broke up with the girlfriend, maybe found out that she was cheating or something like that, or what have you, and you can imagine how crushed you feel. All right. Now, so passive thinking is you can get into a loop of, well, maybe it's my fault, and you can start saying some horrible things to yourself. Well, I wonder, maybe I'm not attractive, or maybe I did this, and if only I would have done that. And you're just letting the ruminating take place. That's passive. It's just happening, and you're going down this negative. And instead, instead of just going to those negative things, active means, hold on a second, hold on a second, is my thinking helping me or hurting me? Is there any benefit to this thought process? So, if, for example, I don't feel like I'm attractive, is there anything I can do about it? Okay. There's nothing I can do about my height, but there's stuff I can do about my physique. If I don't feel accomplished in life, I can do stuff about that. Hey, let me like stop with the Netflix binges and let me pick up a skill and up level my career. So
Mm,
actor, this is like, so there's a thinking process that's active, and making sure that your vitality is connected to moving your agenda forward. All right, that's active thinking. Passive thinking is allowing those thoughts passively to take place that damage you and paralyze you and bring you down. Okay, that's what we are standing together condemning. Okay, that's what we're saying. That thought process does not serve you. Interrogate the thought process. Is there any value in this thought process? And if there's no value, then we're saying shift over to thought process that serves you, and that actually can move you towards your goals. Sometimes these wounds are so deep you can't do it by yourself. Okay. That's where sometimes you got to jump on a hotline and get some support. Sometimes you got to reach out to that
Mhm.
trusted family member. Sometimes you got to reach out to that therapist, or a psychiatrist, because it might be
Mhm.
just so severe. So, but the idea is you want to restore optimum function. You want to restore that. Actor, was that helpful?
Yes.
All right, so we went right to Veronica. You want to take this one, sis?
So I'm continually trying to learn more about understanding and treating depression slash anxiety. Is that considered too much focus on the issue? Where's the balance? Um,
Okay.
I don't think that you can. Well, I mean, I don't think you can if you're learning to see how your your brain works, or you're into things about the mind and emotions and those type of things. And I don't think you can learn too much. You say, where's the balance? I mean, as long as you are, pouring into other things, the positive things into your life, and you just when you're reading material, these are the things you like to read. I don't think that can be harmful. I mean, as mental health professionals, I'm not sure about Dr. White, but as therapists, we have to do continuation classes, right? That's just to get our license renewed and those type of things. And you have to have so many every 2 years. And so it's like, taking not courses, but mini classes in these topics. And I can tell you, I can see why they make us therapists continue to learn about these things, because you continue to grow with your knowledge. So even as therapists, we're growing and understanding, especially when society changes and all these different types of things. You can always grow and learn more. So I don't think learning about depression and anxiety is a harmful thing. I mean, be balanced as long as you're working and taking care of yourself, exercising, doing all the other things in life that are important. But when you want to read a book or read something, that's what you decide to read. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
So, Veronica, what you're kind of speaking to is being dealt with in a book, by Tony Robbins, called Life Force, right? And in the book, he's talking about this new movement in which, like, they don't just want to obsess over disorder. We want to get excited about health. One of the reasons why I enjoyed being trained at Loma Linda, in their psychiatry department, was because they integrated spirituality into our training.
Mhm. Yeah.
There was an understanding of wholeness, and
Right.
there is that balance where, as opposed to just understanding the disruption and disorder, we did get a picture also of what does the ideal look like.
Mhm.
What should we be working for in terms of health? How do I preserve health? How do I
Mhm.
maximize vitality? That to me is the balance. So we want
Mhm.
clarity with the disorder because we want to be able to solve the issue, but we also want, well, what does the ideal? What does vitality look like? And how do I step into that? And that's why we will constantly champion diet and exercise and lifestyle and all these other kind of things. But yeah, you absolutely want clarity on what's broken as well, because where possible you want to be able to fix it. Let's see, Rebecca Shorty McFly, love that. So creative, these folk. We got the actor box, we got Rebecca,
Dr.
we got
Scott.
Jesus the Savior. I'm loving this, man. um, she said, "Can you talk about intrusive thoughts?" So, this is really powerful, incredibly powerful. Great question, Rebecca. So, intrusive
Mhm.
thoughts are basically thoughts that kind of just pop into your mind. Okay, they just pop into your mind,
Right.
and there's a temptation to want to kind of take ownership for it, like, oh my goodness, this is my thought, rather than recognizing not every thought that pops into your mind deserves to be entertained. Some thoughts should pop
Exactly.
in and pop right back out. You just let that look. I don't want to have
Right back.
anything to do with that thought. Let me just let that go. This is actor box. This is part of the active, the activity and thinking. Not everything that just comes
Right.
into my mind, I'm like, okay, well, let me dwell on that. No, 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 no. You don't have any place in my thoughts. You can go right back out. And not
Mhm.
not feeling like every intrusive thought is worth stewing on and expanding on.
Mhm.
No, no. So there can be thoughts that can be incredibly disturbing. In one of the kind of facets of obsessive compulsive disorder, there are these thoughts that can be so incredibly disturbing, and because the person kind of lets them stick, or they kind of, yeah, it just sticks in the person. It's so horrifying, it's disruptive to the
Right.
person's
Hold on
well-being.
to
And so,
it.
like,
Mhm.
I mean, horrible thoughts, sometimes thoughts of harming a person. And what'll happen is they don't have any intention whatsoever of harming the person. They're just so horrified by that thought even occurring in their thinking. Contrast that where a person has an urge to harm a person and they want to follow through with it. That's not what I'm talking about here.
Mhm.
But the idea just being, it's an intrusive thought. And I'm saying, be aware that there are thoughts, Rebecca, that do not deserve to be entertained, and they should pop back out as quickly as they popped in.
Mhm. Deborah Stewart says, intrusive thoughts don't make healthy mind dinners. Well, that's one way to put it. That's one way to put
Oh,
it.
that's funny. That's funny.
Yes. I'm going to call an audible, meaning I haven't spoken to you about this, Dr. White, but I think we should do a part 3. There's so many great thoughts and comments, and I feel like
Absolutely.
people are just getting warmed up and heated up, and this is
Yeah.
such a huge topic. And we have more on now at the very end than we did at the very beginning. So, like Brother Tennessee said, I'm so glad I'm here. We were glad you were here, Brother Tennessee, and
Yeah.
everyone else. We want you to come back next week and bring somebody with you and
Yes.
share this segment with them and let them know. Do more questions and comments, because you guys had great questions. You guys kept
Absolutely.
us on our toes
We
tonight.
could
That was good.
we we could go out with a bang sort of with this one, where the actors
Okay.
box mentioned, so passive thinking is believing the lie about yourselves and what people will project onto you. My
Mm,
goodness, man. Like, how critical it is to, with great reservation, make a determination if you're going to accept what somebody's projecting onto you.
right.
Uh so actor, one of the
Ac-
things that one if you look at the word television, um it breaks down to vision from a distance. Tele is distance, and then vision. So here you are, and we will spend massive hours of time embracing a vision from a distance, rather than you
Mhm.
honing your personal vision. Like, imagine what would happen if you spent like hours watching the perfect vision of your life,
Mhm.
rather than watching the vision of someone else's life. And while that's happening, you're paralyzed, you're not doing anything. What's the power of envisioning your life and what it needs to become? It
Mm.
pulls you. It pulls you. That's the power of
Mhm.
envisioning. If I'm envisioning myself with a six pack or what have you, it's like, I could do some sit-ups. Let me do some sit-ups. If I'm envisioning stepping up to the next level, I got to study after this, because I'm envisioning, if I'm envisioning how tomorrow's going to unfold, I immediately start preparing tonight. well, I know I got to do this. I got to get to bed early because I'm thinking about it. All of that is wiped off the map if
Right.
instead of that, I'm watching someone else's vision. So, actor, you're like touching on something really powerful that we've got to really
Yes.
be careful what we allow someone to project on us, especially when their connection to our well-being is questionable at best,
That's
especially.
right.
So
That's
that
right.
was absolute fire, absolute fire.
That's
All
right. Now,
right.
what I want you guys to, those who have not had your questions answered, I think there's a few of them, please bring them back next week. Bring your question back, bring yourself back, and bring somebody with you. Share this link, share that we are here in our topic, and we'd love to have you back with us next week and on this important topic. Please, again, come back next week, Monday, 7 p.m. Central Time. So that's, don't know what time zone you're in, but whatever, that's 8 o'clock Eastern and 6 o'clock. No, I'm sorry, 5 o'clock on Pacific time. And then if you're around the country or out of the country, I should say, sorry, out of the country, I have no idea what time it will be, but please try to come back. And you can also, again, send people this program and you can always rewatch it as well on YouTube. But it's always a pleasure to do these programs with you, Dr. Whyte. And thank you all again
Yeah,
for being with us here
absolutely.
this evening. We will see you next week as we do the third
All right,
episode
great.
of Depression. Have a good
Awesome.
evening.
Have a lovely evening, everyone.
Bye bye.